Hey guys, Andy the Sprinkler Nerd here, and I'm making this video for a couple reasons, mostly to help explain the differences with Netafim's two type of drip tubing so that if you're looking for products on our website, you can select the right Netafim product for you and save in a possible return if you accidentally purchase the wrong part. So, Netafim has two main types of dripper line. This big roll that's sitting here to my left is what's called Netafim Techline CV, and this product has been around for a long time, and it's likely in 90% of all the landscapes out there. So if you're looking for replacement parts for your system, it's likely that you have Techline CV. This tubing is the bigger of the two types. It's a 17 millimeter tubing. And the other tubing that Netafim has is called the Techline EZ, and it's a 12 millimeter tube, so it's smaller than the Techline CV. And one of the common mistakes that we see people make is they purchase replacement parts, either replacement rolls for their system, and they have CV installed and they purchase EZ 12 millimeter tubing. So first thing you want to do is take a look at your system. Do you have the CV 17 millimeter or the EZ 12 millimeter? And if you're looking for fittings, they have the smaller 12 millimeter size that goes with the smaller tubing, and the 17 millimeter size, which goes with the bigger tubing. And you can see by the color difference that the smaller 12 millimeter is a much darker brown. Call this a dark chocolate, and the 17 millimeter for the Techline CV as well as the Techline original Netafim's DL tubing is the lighter brown, more of the milk chocolate. So that's the first thing to look at. Do you have 17 or 12 millimeter tubing so you can get the right components? And then you have a couple options when it comes to purchasing the tubing. There's a lot of different variations of the product. So to kind of start from the beginning, the emitters that are built into the tubing come at specific flow rates. There's 4 flow rates that Netafim makes. It starts out with the small 0.26 gallon per hour flow rate, and the 0.4 gallon per hour, then the 0.6 gallon per hour, then the 0.9 gallon per hour. So when you're making your purchase decision, you want to know what type of flow rate that you want to use or replace. And I just will also mention that if you purchase the wrong flow rate, you can make up for it with how you run your controller and you set your time. So we'll talk about that in another future video. Then the second thing to look for is the distance that the emitters are spaced along the tubing. So when Netafim manufactures this tube, during the extrusion process, the emitters are placed in the tubing at specific intervals. So in landscape, they're placed at 12-inch spacing and 18-inch spacing. And then in agricultural applications, you'll sometimes see spacing at custom intervals like a 6-inch spacing or even a 24 or 36-inch spacing depending on the crop type. But in landscape, we're looking at 12-inch and 18-inch. So that's the second thing you'll look for, is what distance do you want those emitters to be spaced at? And then the last thing is the roll length. Do you want a short roll of tubing or do you want a big roll of tubing? Generally, Netafim comes in rolls of 100 foot, 250 foot, and 1,000 foot rolls. The Techline EZ comes in, I believe, an additional length of a 500 foot roll. It can be, if you need a lot of tubing, we might suggest that you do buy smaller rolls and then use a coupler. This is a T, but use a coupler to attach them together. And that's because a 1,000-foot roll of tubing is really big, and as soon as you take off the binding that holds it together, it can quickly uncoil and become kind of a hassle. So we recommend sticking with 250-foot rolls if you need a large amount of tubing and couple them together. Let's see, I did also want to mention the use of these barbed couplings and barbed fittings for just blank polyethylene tubing. Netafim's fittings and drip fittings are specifically meant for drip tubing. and they're built in such a way that they do not require clamps. So when you're using a product like this and you insert the fitting into the tubing, there's no need to put a clamp on it. They will hold up to about 60 psi or 60 pounds of pressure in the tube as a restraint before they may come off. And you want to be careful not to use these fittings to hold blank polyethylene tubing together, or vice versa. You don't want to use your traditional insert coupling that might be used for lateral lines on your system. You don't want to use those couplings to hold your drip tubing together either. A common size tubing would be a half-inch polyethylene tubing, and a half-inch insert coupling is going to be a little bit smaller than your standard 17 millimeter drip fitting. So it's best to keep insert fittings for your polyethylene tubing and use drip fittings for your drip tubing. So those are just a couple things to keep in mind when you look to install a new system or buy replacement parts. And if there's anything else we can help you with, we are happy to assist. You can reach us by phone, email, or chat. And thanks so much for watching, and until next time, happy sprinkling.